Right?
Phil,
That's a distinction I'm
Phil,
going to make.
we're going to have to wrap it up because I do have to speak with somebody else.
For 5 minutes, right? We've talked about the philosophy a lot. So can I ask you, you did say that you assented to the scientific case for the beginning to the universe.
Yeah.
So given in our last 5 minutes, could you not say one thing to defend that view, given that you said you thought it was correct?
Defend what view?
The scientific view that the universe had a beginning.
Yeah.
What is the evidence for that?
The BGV theorem is one.
The BGV theorem?
Yeah.
So, all right, so here's what I would recommend. Why does the BGV theorem prove the universe had a beginning?
I didn't say that it proves it.
Well,
based on certain assumptions, it follows.
Which assumptions?
Well, my point to you is this, okay? Let me finish. The BGV theorem, certain things like the cosmic microwave background, the idea of the law of thermodynamics, all of these points, I think, are evidence for the fact that the universe had a beginning. Now, you dispute that. You think they're all bad, but you've heard them before. So me explaining to you again... Okay.
But no, if someone asserts... I'm sure you've heard philosophical discussions as well. So let me just respond to those 3 pieces of evidence. Yeah. So in our video, please Google Skydive Phil, Kalam argument, you'll see our new video. We have Alan Guth and Alex Valenkin, who I've both personally interviewed, right? Basically say the BGV theorem does not prove the beginning to the universe. All it does is show that inflation cannot avoid a singularity. It shows there's a beginning to inflation, but it doesn't prove the beginning to the universe. That's just not true. You could easily have a collapsing universe and then an expanding universe. So there's no reason at all to think the BGV theorem proves the universe has a beginning. So that was point number 1. Point number 2, the cosmic microwave background. The cosmic microwave background tells you that the universe was in a very hot, dense state. I don't disagree with that. But if there was a collapsing universe and then it expanded, which is what Gamow, one of the fathers of the Big Bang Theory, thought was the case, it would also give you a CMB. So that doesn't give you any evidence at all that there was a beginning to the universe.
You know what? I get the impression. I get the impression you really want to get this discussion onto the science.
That is my area of interest. Yes.
And what we're saying is actually, or what Jake's saying is specifically, this got nothing to do with the science. The science doesn't solve the problem at all.
I think you want to get away from the science, right?
No, it's not about getting away from the science.
Because just given some evidence.
The problem that you have is...
Can I not just respond to the third piece of evidence?
The problem that you... I think, to be honest, I'll be honest, I'm not interested. Jake, are you interested in listening to his third
I will admit that my area of interest is more
to his third piece of argument.
I'll admit that.
Not really.
I'll admit that. I'm not going to pretend that's the case, right?
What's that? Sorry.
I'm not
absolutely happy to admit that. When
you're happy to admit what?
When you're critiquing the KCA, you have to critique it based upon its strongest arguments. What you can't do is you can't use it as a way to critique it based upon supportive arguments.
So you're saying the scientific, so you agree the scientific argument is weaker, right?
The scientific arguments have always been perceived as supportive arguments.
Well, everything there is
because if you're talking about from William Lane Craig in the modern sense, this argument goes back in the Islamic tradition, which was
it goes older than Islamic tradition.
But here's my point. It was primarily based on philosophical argumentation, not scientific argumentation.
You can
so that's what we're representing.
You can argue any,
and I have discussed philosophy. I haven't.
You can argue any quote unquote potential model and science. But what you really have to deal with are the philosophical arguments. If you can't deal with the philosophical arguments, so one of his arguments that he used to talk about the problem of a beginningless series ending, which you agree, I think you disagree with that, don't you? Disagree?
He said he's agnostic. He's agnostic on everything.
So it's because it's possible.
I don't know. All I'm saying is it
possible? Is it possible? I'm not saying is it probable. I'm saying is it possible?
I don't know.
So you don't know whether it's possible or not.
I am not.
You don't know if it's possible or impossible.
Okay. I don't know how many more times I can say I don't.
No. Because I'm asking it very specifically.
I know, and I can't give you a more specific.
So you don't know if it's impossible or possible. Have you got any way of determining what is considered impossible?
Of course, you can have. Sorry. Okay.
Go on.
Hang on. Sorry. Before I answer, I want to finish the response I had in because you interrupted me.
No, because I think, to be honest, I think it's a bit of a red herring.
You keep interrupting me.
It's a red herring
argument. If you're going to keep interrupting me, then there's no conversation, is there?
So, Phil, it's a red herring argument.
I have to get going anyway.
You keep interrupting me, right?
I'm sorry.
How many times are you going to interrupt me?
You can finish your point. Go on.
Thank you.
Just make your closing statement, Phil, please.
Okay. Right. We've already discussed
Somebody's waiting to speak to me.
Okay, fine. Right.
I'm waiting to speak to him.
Interrupting again. Okay. So, right. I want to finish the point that you made.
Yeah, make your third point.
So the third point was thermodynamics, okay? Thermodynamics does not give any evidence to the beginning of the universe, right? Why not? Because it assumes that let me explain to the argument to the audience. It assumes that if the idea was if we have a beginning to the universe, right, then we would get to a maximal state of entropy, and therefore the fact that we're not in a maximal state of entropy, therefore the universe must have had a beginning. That argument doesn't work for two reasons. First off, it assumes that there is a finite maximal entropy. But if you have, let's say, an eternally inflating universe, and you can go into our videos to explain this, there is no necessary maximal entropy point. So you can't, there's no getting to it, right? Second off, we know the universe was in a very low entropy state, okay? The question is why? There are various theories that would tell you that the Big Bang was driven to a low entropy state from some other state. Therefore, it's not necessarily true that second law of thermodynamics gives you a beginning to the universe. So the three pieces of evidence you gave are not good evidences. Okay. Now, just to finish up, you're always basically saying, well, yeah, you want to talk about the science, but the science is irrelevant. We want to talk about the philosophy. We have talked about the philosophy. It's not my area of expertise. I'm going to admit that, right? But basically, I think your philosophical argument relied on the principle of sufficient reason, and I don't think we have to.
On what position? On what position did Jake make about the principle of sufficient reason?
He basically came to a contingency argument.
No. What position? Yeah. What was the position?
He basically said that if you have an endless stream, as I understand the argument.
You didn't say endless, but go on, Karen.
Did you not?
No, we were talking about actual infinity, and we were talking about having a series which is beginningless and ends.
Yeah, but I don't think that's where I disagree with Alex. I don't think it has any meaning to say that the series ends.
No, but you don't understand what Alex is saying. Why are you bringing that up?
Okay, that's fine because that's not my area of expertise.
You haven't spoken.
You debate that with Alex.
Because
you were debating the position initially. Anyway.
Yeah. I'll defend the argument.
So where did the principle of sufficient reason come in when Jake was mentioning it at this point?
Well, as I understand it,
go on.
Right, he basically was saying if you have an endless series, right, you've got to have a reason.
Not endless. He didn't use endless. Go on. Beginningless.
Yeah. But I don't see what's the difference.
Exactly, but Alex malpasses. Here's the point. No, hold on a second. Yeah. You initially brought up Malpass, maybe just in passing, but because I've spoken to him recently, that's why I targeted. Yeah. The fact is he has an entire paper which is meant to dispute what you just said. That Craig's arguments, he says, assumes what's called an endless series, a series which ends, right? Yeah. And you're flip-flopping it. The way we're talking now, okay, you're flip-flopping it. He says that you can have a beginningless series that ends. That's his whole argument.
Maybe false. I don't know.
His whole argument.
Alex to defend.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's true or false.
So the point is this.
What I'm saying is that the denial of the Kalam doesn't require.
So where does the PCR come in?
Right?
Where does the
doesn't
PCR
require
come in?
that.
Yeah, but
where does the PCR come in? Where does the PCR?
You're going to keep with the same
PSR. The reason why I'm coming
because we want to know if you understand the point.
Exactly.
Okay. My point is the Kalam. My dissent of the Kalam doesn't require that statement. Okay.
What do you mean?
Statement?
That you can end a beginningless series, right?
Okay.
Right. That my critique doesn't require that to be true or false. Alex can defend that, and he may be right. Okay.
I'm just trying to understand.
Right?
I'm just trying to understand whether you understood the argument.
My criticism is not about me. Okay.
No, because
we're talking.
Okay. No. But my point is, he may be right or wrong about that. He can defend that. Right, but my criticism is not dependent on that.
What's your criticism of what?
What I've been saying is there's not good evidence, and you haven't presented any evidence for a beginning to the universe.
I have.
You haven't.
I have.
You haven't.
I have. How about you? How about you give your closing statement, and I'll give mine.
My closing statement, okay, is.
I thought he gave his closing statement, Jay.
Okay. Well, he was finishing his third point. I'm being generous.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you want to have the last word, right?
I can finish if you want me to finish first.
You can throw a coin, how's that?
Okay. So the way I see this conversation is you've approached me, you wanted to speak about a very specific point. I was meaning to defend the Kalam and the second premise primarily on philosophical grounds. I never made any claims about trying to defend it scientifically. This was what you brought up.
Yeah.
Okay. So I primarily defend the Kalam when I do, and I don't even use it really, to be honest, as a primary argument, based on philosophical grounds. Now, for you said that that's not your area, which is fine. There's no problem with that.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is that there are strong philosophical arguments against an actual infinite by successive addition. One of the ones that we went into is the idea of what Malpass says, that you could have a beginningless series which ends. The problem is with that is, why does it end when it does? And any moment that precedes that, if you were to label it, would be totally arbitrary and would violate the PSR. Okay, and that's when we went into the conversation of what you discussed. Well, you don't accept the PSR. I asked for your theory. You said you don't have an alternative theory. You're agnostic on it. Then we talked about modality. You don't have a theory of modality. So really, from my perspective, I don't think we can get too far, because you're coming from a scientific angle, which is fine. You can have your angle to the argument, but I'm coming from primarily a philosophical angle, which in the Islamic tradition, that's how the argument is represented, and that's how I defend the argument. Now, science itself has undergirding philosophical assumptions, and so for me, the metaphysics of it and philosophy is more primary than the science itself, and that's why I argue based on these terms.
Right, okay. So to sum up, it's certainly true that I did ask for a debate on the Kalam, and I didn't hide the fact that the scientific area was the area that I am more interested in. And I think I've given reasons to show that the scientific arguments for the Kalam are not valid reasons. And I think there's been very little discussion about that. So I hope that the audience will get that there is not strong scientific reasons to believe the universe had a beginning. Now, on the philosophical argument, I have engaged on the philosophical argument. I haven't said I won't discuss philosophy.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't.
Guys, can you wrap up in 5 minutes?
Yeah, this is his last statement.
1 minute.
Literally his last statement.
We basically got down to whether the principle of sufficient reason is valid or not. And I basically said, I don't see that.
You said you don't know, basically.
Right. I think
you don't know whether the
brute
universe is necessary.
please don't interrupt my closing statement, please.
Okay,
right. I think brute facts are a perfectly reasonable alternative to the principle of sufficient reason, and therefore the philosophical argument that you ran doesn't really work because we have a perfectly reasonable alternative.
Okay. Thank you, Phil.
All right.
Closing statement?
Thanks very much.
I already gave it. Yeah, that's fine.
Already, yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Have you heard my closing statement?
No.
Assalamu alaikum.
But one last thing, if you want to go more into the philosophy and the science, our new video.
Yeah, but you need to address the actual argument.
I have.
You're not addressing the argument. What you're doing
Maybe bring Malpass on to discuss the point that we talked about.
You discuss that with Malpass.
No, I'm saying, but maybe you'll learn something from what he has to say.
That's fair enough. Okay. Maybe listen to Alan Guth and Alex Valenka and you may learn something.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant. It isn't irrelevant.
If a person believes that an actual infinite cannot be formed by successive addition is a logical impossibility or a metaphysical impossibility, then any scientific discussion cannot engage
You're assuming
in that.
metaphysical impossibility is a reasonable, well-defined thing, but I would dispute that. I don't think metaphysical impossibility can be well-defined.
I don't think
it's really just an argument from incredulity.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for the discussion.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, brother.
Hey, Mike.
Did you take?
I think you took.
Yeah, he says, yeah, I was recording him earlier. Yeah.